Let's bring in our next guest, get his opinion on this. It's Trevor Matich on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Trevor, what is up?
Hey, Jeremy. Hey, Brian. I'm sorry that you had to run during your off week. That sounds traumatic, man.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. Especially 2010, it made sense because, it's kind of a down year. We were struggling. 2009, it kind of broke my heart because me and Brandon Bradley, the other corner, we were the only starters on the defense that were actually playing. Everybody else on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball, it was second and third string guys. So obviously we got the message that we sucked. So yeah.
Well, back when I was playing, fortunately running had not yet been invented. Mankind was still on all fours, and so
Wow.
I didn't have to worry about running during the off week.
84 was a crazy year,
Nice.
man. ESPN's Football Power Index, Trevor, gives BYU a 22% chance to win out. Brian already said BYU has a 100% chance to win. I said 75. What percent chance do you give BYU to win their final 4 games?
I like yours. I think more like 75. But the thing is, it's just 1 week. What chance do they have to win this week? And each week changes based on injury and other things. But San Jose State is a team that can win. San Jose State does some things well, and BYU needs to show up to win that game. Missouri is the one at Missouri. That's the one I think that the FBI is looking at as one that BYU could lose, and that's not unreasonable because Missouri's defense is playing at a national level. They're playing exceptionally well. Offensively, they're kind of in the wilderness, but if you don't score, you can't win. And so BYU's already been shut out by a good defense once this year on the road. So that's the one I think that BYU fans need to circle. Even though I know BYU players aren't even thinking about Missouri right now. They're thinking about what's upcoming San Jose State.
How about Utah State?
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Utah State, to me, I mean, like Missouri, they're having some ups and downs, and we heard news with the quarterback Matty Mock being suspended, probably going to be gone for the rest of the year. And so to me, I would sweep that under the rug a little bit. To me, as a player, knowing that Utah State is a rival game, you can kind of throw out everything that's been going on. Utah State, to me, seems more of a challenge at this point than a Missouri.
You know what? I'm glad you reminded me about that rivalry thing because we beat Utah and Utah State. We were 8-0 against those two teams. I forgot they were a rival. You're right. It's a big rival.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Utah State. Hey, just saying, man. I don't really mean to talk trash. I'm just speaking the truth here. But they are a good team, really good team. I mean, Boise State, they derailed Boise's hopes. I mean, when BYU beat Boise, they still had hope to make the New Year's Six, and then 7 turnovers against Utah State in the first half. Boise State committed. Utah State enforced on Boise State. So you're right. Utah State's another one that'll be a really tough game. These would be very good quality wins if BYU is able to get them.
Let's say that the weather's bad in a couple of these games, like Missouri. Let's say there's snow or it's just really cold and the ball's a little slippery. Same with Utah State. Logan, November 28th. That doesn't sound like anything anybody wants. Mm-mm. What effect do you think that would have on BYU against those particular opponents if there is bad weather?
Well, let's see, weather. Look out the window. Let's see, where are you guys now? Oh, yeah, at the foot of the Wasatch Mountains. Weather? No, you don't play in a dome out there. It's BYU can handle weather. Now, the way their offense is, I think they're pretty well suited to handle the weather just because the running game's starting to come along. And the passing game has big wide receivers that don't always require hyper-accurate passes. They can get down the field, have the ball thrown up into that weather, and they can jump up and get it. So I think that helps them. If it were more of a West Coast precision passing game and the wind was blowing, that would be a problem. But I think they'll be okay when it comes to weather.
Trevor, I got word this morning. I watched some of the highlights of the Miami and the Duke game, but I want to get your thought as a national analyst and talk about just the aftermath of the game and with the refs not getting certain decisions right, taking about 9 minutes. What's your overall thoughts on that?
Well, my overall thoughts is that it was a travesty. I mean, it was a disservice to the players who go out there and sacrifice their health to play this game, certainly in the short term with the pain that they go through, the pain that they fight through to prepare to play a football game and then actually do it because they love the sport and they strive for the win. The hours that the coaches spend away from their families as they prepare these kids and prepare these game plans. And these officials performed at a third-grade level. at the end, and to me it was completely unfair to the people who actually did their jobs well, and that's the players and coaches on both sides. In that game, Duke was ahead. The last play, Miami had 8 or 9 laterals on a long play. They tried to, win the game, and they did. They had all those laterals, and they scored, and they won the game on the last play. The officials reviewed it, like you said, 9 minutes or so, and they said, "Yep, we uphold the play." Well, there are certain things that are not reviewable, certain kinds of penalties that occurred that they missed during the course of this whole thing. But worse than any of that is something that is reviewable, and that's whether or not a player's down. And on at least one of the laterals, a Miami player, his knee was on the ground while he still had the ball. And it was clear for everybody to see. And not only did all the officials miss it on the field, the replay officials missed it. And if they would have got that, blown the whistle, and called it dead right there, you would have had a Duke win. Now, the flip side to that is that they also called over the course of the game 23 penalties, 23, count of 23, if I got that number exactly right, in the 20s of penalties on Miami during the game, including a handful of pass interference penalties that are purely subjective, and some of those were questioned and questionable. So it wasn't just that one play that those officials were horrible. The entire game, the officials were imposing their presence on the play in a way that I did not think was necessary to make sure the play was fair and equitable on both sides. So we look at that last play, but if you look at the entire game, there was a whole lot of bad stuff. They suspended this crew for two games, unless they've changed that since I last heard. And I think that these guys should be relegated down to the, whatever the English Premier League soccer team AAA is, and go to England and officiate some soccer for a while before they ever see another American football field.
Those are the Pac-12 refs. Trevor Matich is on BYU Sports Nation on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Now this weekend, things really heat up. Last third of the season, 4 games to go for most teams, some teams 5, depending on the conference. But you're going to be at LSU at Alabama. Now, if Alabama loses, probably out of the playoff picture. What do you think of that matchup this weekend?
Oh, boy. This is why I do not want the playoff to go to 8 games. Because this is a game, as it has been in the regular season so often in the last decade or so, that is basically an elimination game in some ways. Certainly it is for Alabama, not necessarily for LSU, but certainly for Alabama. It's a playoff game in the regular season. And if we had 8 teams in the playoff, it's quite possible that a 2-loss Alabama would get in there anyhow because of the way that they're capable of playing to round out the season. That would make games like this in the regular season, instead of epic struggles that will change the balance of power nationally in college football, it would turn it into a mildly interesting exhibition for seeding in the playoff, and the real game will happen down the road.
Preach.
And I would hate to see that happen to this game and to college football. And so I think this game is another example of why 4 teams in the playoff is exactly the way it needs to be. This game is, I mean, it is monumental, and it is epic. There's a lot of guys on both sides that'll see each other in the NFL a few years down the road. And right now, it's win or go home when it comes to Alabama.
Trevor, you just made me a believer. I was all for 8-game playoff, but now you just brought that passion and excitement back to me. I agree with you 100%. So with that being said, the playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. Who are your 4 teams right now?
Well, if the playoff were held, and I was not doing a power ranking and who is the best teams, but who deserves to go to the playoffs, yep, I would have Ohio State, Clemson, Baylor, and who's for LSU. And LSU. Those would be my 4 teams. I think Alabama would be one of the top 4 teams. And I think Baylor, even though they haven't played anybody, and even though they lost their quarterback, I still think they will win it all. So I'm giving them some benefit of the doubt for the domination of teams, even though their schedule is backloaded with the quality teams.
You still think Baylor is going to win the national championship?
I think Baylor is going to win the national championship. It's looking more and more like they'll face Clemson, doesn't it? Clemson's looking strong.
Yeah, Clemson is looking strong.
Now, and that's interesting. In a Pac-12 team left out right now, Stanford, the strongest of those, it would appear, got away with one. Washington State misses a field goal after that kicker had made 5 in the game and then misses his 6th. Trevor Matich is on BYU Sports Nation. Who will you be shocked if a certain team is left out? I guess who deserves to maybe be in the 4 that people aren't talking about, or maybe isn't in your top 4 right now?
Well, I think the Big Ten right now is where I'll be shocked if certain things do or don't happen. Michigan State right now is definitely not in my top 4 power index. They're just not. They give up too many yards and points on defense. Offensively, they've had epic injuries on the offensive line, and so they've not been the same Michigan State offense that we've come to expect. And yet they're undefeated. They've got a win at ranked Michigan, and then they've got that win at the beginning of the season against Oregon at home. And I think you put that combination together, that's better than anything Ohio State's done. And I think the committee might look at body of work to this point and rank Michigan State above Ohio State, even though I think Ohio State's playing better right now. Ohio State has been number 1 in the AP poll all year. I don't expect them to be number 1 in the first committee rankings coming out, because they haven't, the best team that they've played. Let's put it this way: the only Power 5 team with the winning record that they've played is Penn State. And they beat Penn State, but everybody else is either 500 or below 500 in the Power 5. They beat a couple of teams in the Group of 5 that are one game above 500. But they don't have the body of work in terms of resume, and I think that's very important to the committee. So people just assume that Ohio State, since they've been number 1 all year, will be number 1 in the first committee rankings, and I don't think they will. I think they'll probably be 3 or 4.
Trevor, I was thinking about this as you were talking of certain teams and certain conferences getting left out. I personally would like to see every conference have a chance to play. So maybe if there's something or a setup where the champion, the conference champion for the Pac-12, for the Big Ten, etc., they automatically get a bid, kind of like basketball, right? And then maybe the highest ranked G5 gets in. So now you move to maybe a 6-team playoff. Does something like that make sense to you? Because I just feel that it would do college football justice to have every single conference represented and have a chance to play for a national championship.
Well, a lot of people agree with you, Brian, and that would be great. If they did that, it would be fantastic. You'd still have a feel of, if it were 6 teams, you'd still have a feel of it being a playoff during the regular season, because you lose a conference game, and that'd be like a national playoff game, because now you can't get into the national playoff. If you go to 8 teams, now you're going to have 3 wild cards. Mm-hmm. And so you can that will diminish games like this LSU-Alabama game. But if it went the way you said, then yeah, it would still have that kind of feel. And here's the thing. There's truth on both sides of most arguments that we'll have, or most debates in college football. And a lot of people agree with you that they want to see it expanded, and some people want to see it expanded beyond 8. And you know what? It would be fantastic. It would be like March Madness. The only thing I want to be careful about is not to turn the regular season into what March Madness in basketball has turned the regular season in college hoops into, which is an exhibition that we want to hurry up and get through so we can get to the fun part at the end. Yep. Right now, every week there's some sort of what amounts to a playoff game, or at least it has the feel of a playoff game in the moment, because there's only 4 teams that get in. And then what ends up happening is teams in one region of the country will desperately be watching teams in another region of the country as the season goes on, hoping and praying for a loss out there, because now that there's more ways for their team to get in with 4. But it's limited to 4 right now. There's more possibilities, but it's still a rare commodity. And if something is rare, it's more valued. And so that's why I think 4 is a good place. But a lot of people, maybe even more than half of the people, would agree with you, Brian.
And one of those big matchups that will play into the playoff this weekend, Alabama LSU. Trevor, you'll be there with College Game Day on ESPN Radio. That should be a lot of fun.
It'll be fantastic. I can't wait. The scene at Bryant-Denny Stadium, it's got to be on your bucket list for people that haven't been able to see it. I mean, BYU fans have come out to see Ole Miss, BYU play Ole Miss, and that was fantastic. As a matter of fact, out there I was told that there were some tailgating tents set up with a big sign that said "Free beer for BYU fans." I really hope nobody actually took that bait, but it was.
That's why they put that sign out there, because they know BYU fans are going to drink.
Yeah, they're just not gonna bite. You know, but as far as coming out to a game like this, boy, if you get a chance to just once in your life as a football fan, you've got to come out.
Trevor, thanks for the time as always.
All right, thanks, guys.